probably could have guessed this, but in my spare time I do a lot of research on prejudice, stereotype, and discrimination, and somebody had recommended that I look into a man named Claude Steele, who's done a lot of really amazing work on this concept known as stereotype threat. So stereotype threat is when we take a marginalized person and we introduce to them a stereotype, a negative stereotype about them. Let's say women aren't good at math. What happens is that person internalizes that and starts to believe that they're not as good at math as other people. A study was done where men and women were placed in a room. They were given a math test, and then the testers said nothing. They let the men and women do the test. And what we found is exactly what a lot of studies have proven. Women underperformed compared to men in math. However, when they took a separate group of men and women, gave them the exact same test, but told the women, we know that you've heard that women aren't good at math, but don't worry, we've designed this test to eliminate any of those subtleties. There'll be nothing that counts against you in this test. This is just a test of your ability. When researchers presented that simple phrase, the difference between men and women on their math test performance was eliminated. This made some researchers wonder, what is it then that's making women underperform in math? And you could broaden that question to what makes certain groups of people underperform. It turns out that when individuals are really passionate about something that society says they're not as good at or less than at, they have to do two things: the task and then overcome the stereotype. And having that stereotype weighing on their minds takes away from cognitive function, which means that they underperform in the subject. Friends, this is huge. This might be the reason why we see differences between different races on certain subjects, different sexes on certain subjects. The point is that when there's a stereotype, a negative stereotype that exists about you, it's really frustrating because you know other people think this and you're constantly fighting to disprove this. And like I said, this just takes mental space. This is why some of us get really frustrated at individuals that don't have as many negative stereotypes against them, because for some of us, there's so many different hurdles and so many different concepts that we have to fight past just to prove that we are equal. Some of the ways to eliminate stereotype threat is to do what the researchers did in the experiment. Assure people that the stereotype doesn't exist in that scenario. And it's really important that we emphasize that eliminating stereotype threat doesn't mean telling the person the stereotype doesn't exist, because we know it exists. The point is that you need to tell the individuals that the stereotype isn't applicable in this situation. On top of that, we also need to be creating safe spaces and supportive spaces so that marginalized and underrepresented, underserved populations feel like they are safe and able to perform to their full potential. If you have the time, I invite all of you to look into what Claude Steele is doing. More from me coming soon. Friends, you can find me on Twitter at HeyCassieV, and I will see you next week. I can't guarantee that anyone actually finds me dangerous, because look at me. Just look at me. It's one moment.